Hi, my name is Jason and I will be talking about cultural values and assumptions. Here's what I will be going over: the components of the ethical issue, research that has been done on the topic, relevant sections within the Code of Ethics, and the clinical implications. I will also be giving you a case study on this topic. Therapy is based on Western cultural values, ignoring the external influences that might affect culturally diverse clients. Counselors who hold biased views and who use intervention strategies that do not reflect the cultural values of diverse clients reinforce institutional discrimination and injustice. Our text emphasizes that traditional methods of counseling are ineffective and inappropriate with some cultural groups. To have a positive counseling relationship, traditional strategies have to be adapted with regard to other cultural norms and values. Due to the Western inclination in therapy, sometimes normal behavior is labeled as abnormal because it does not reflect Western individualistic values and norms. For example, Latin or Asian family relationships could be seen as indicative of an unhealthy dependency by counselors who are not educated in these cultures. Ethical standards require that practitioners be trained to address diversity factors once they become relevant during counseling. Counselors need to be able to adapt themselves and their practice to culturally diverse clients in order to have a positive therapeutic relationship. If the impact of culture and experiences such as racism, sexism, and other forms of discrimination are ignored, it will result in a misunderstanding of the client. These factors need to be integrated into the counseling process to have an ethical and respectful experience. Probably the most important part of conducting an ethical practice with regard to multiculturalism is to be self-aware of one's own biases, stereotypical beliefs, and assumptions. Culturally competent counselors engage in constant self-review and improvement on this topic. If counselors fail to become self-aware, they risk causing harm to their clients. Individualistic and collectivistic values come into conflict during therapy. As covered earlier, therapy tends to promote Western cultural values and the independent model of the self. Clients from collectivistic cultures value their families and their communities and the interdependent model of the self. Here are some articles that discuss some of the ethical issues. This first article is mainly about having the Code of Ethics reflect multicultural values and learning to embrace the client's cultural background and its influence in therapy. One point the author makes that directly relates to this presentation is that it is unethical for a culturally incompetent counselor to provide professional services to culturally diverse clients, as this could be harmful to the client. The author also states that counselors not only need to be empathetic with the client, but also with the client's cultural background and its impact on therapy. The second article is about being aware of one's own biases and recognizing multiple cultural influences on the client. The author introduces the cultural influences which she believes should be addressed in therapy. These are age, developmental disabilities, acquired disabilities, religion, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, indigenous heritage, national origin, and gender. In this last article, the author reviews research on the contrasting views of individualism and collectivism and their stereotypical assumptions. He also recognizes the importance of understanding different worldviews for a competent practice. Individualistic and collectivistic worldviews affect the way clients experience counseling and the dilemmas they might face. Any intervention that goes against the client's beliefs is unethical. Here are the relevant sections of the Code of Ethics from the ACA, the MBCC, and the APA. These sections state that counselors need to avoid imposing their own values and beliefs, recognize the cultural effects on the client, demonstrate multicultural competence, and eliminate any biases they might hold. The recurring ethical theme in this presentation is that counselors need to constantly review their own beliefs and assumptions. They need to understand the client and the factors that affect them without imposing any of their own personal values. The more knowledgeable the counselor is in other cultures, the easier it will be to adapt their own counseling sessions to a more culturally sensitive one. So here we have the case of Jenna. Go ahead and pause the video, take a minute to read it, and on the next slide you'll see the question. So in this presentation, we went over the components of the ethical issue, research on the topic, relevant codes of ethics, the clinical implications, and the case study.